going to quickly discuss some tier 3 wide receivers, and these are kind of guys in the realm of, Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, Emmanuel Sanders, Golden Tate, Hakeem Nicks, some of the rookies like Sammy Watkins. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the guy. I personally just can't stand this guy, Deshaun Jackson. I think he's a punk, and I just never liked him. And anyway, that's a story for another day. But ADP and PPR leagues has him going at 23rd off the board. Jay has him going exactly at 23 off the board. I don't think any of us think he's going to put up his career numbers of last year. One, because he actually played all the games, but now he's on a different team. So how do you think his fantasy production is going to pan out this season, Jay, in Washington, D.C.?
Meh. I don't know. We'll see. Look, he's going to an offense that passed it about 100 more times last season than his previous team did. But I actually don't see his numbers improving. You're right. Look, last season was the highest, the best he's ever done. That was his best numbers last year. And I don't think Gruden is going to have to lean on Deshaun Jackson in the passing game the way that Chip Kelly did last year in Philadelphia with the injuries they had to Maclin, and they didn't really have much of a wide receiver core there last year. I think he can be highly productive. He already has been, but I think he's more a tool in an offense rather than a player. So he's not going to just be like the highlighted wide receiver that some people think he might be. I don't think his targets are going to increase. He's compared opposite of a guy who was nearly the most heavily targeted player in the NFL last year in Pierre Garçon. So I think he finished the season around 70 catches, maybe 1,100 yards. I think Garçon and Jordan Reed are way more viable red zone targets, so Deshaun's touchdowns are going to have to come from those long, exciting plays we all love to see. But I don't think he's going to get too many of them. I think, with a running quarterback like Robert Griffin, you just don't see as many downfield passes as you do with a guy like Nick Foles who stands in the pocket. So I think he's going to finish the season barely staying in the top 25. I think he's going to see a significant drop-off from his numbers last year.
Yeah, again, like you just said, Maclin was out last year. They really had no one else to go to. And the surprising thing for Deshaun last year was the fact that he actually played 16 games. He's a very small guy. He gets concussed. He gets hurt. I don't see him, A, staying healthy the whole season like last year. I think that was an anomaly. And B, there's a lot more weapons in Washington's offense now than there was in Philly last year with the injuries they had. So, RG3 benefits from this for sure. Alfred Morris benefits from this for sure. But as far as Deshaun Jackson's numbers in fantasy, the only way is down. So I see him, and don't draft him anything above a wide receiver 2 for sure. Definitely wide receiver 3 flex, and just hope he hits on the week that you have to play him.
Yeah, Jim, you got any thoughts on Deshaun Jackson?
Yeah, if he falls to me on the waiver wire, I'll pick him up.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we're going to move on to actually Deshaun Jackson's former teammate and the guy we were just talking about. That was a reason that Deshaun Jackson had good numbers last year. Being out was Jeremy Maclin. His ADP is 30th. Rob, you've got him 7 spots higher than that at 23rd. So let's hear the reasons for that.
I am. I'm feeling pretty good about Maclin. The guy, you're right, is coming back from an injury. He tore his right ACL in July prior to last year's season. So he had the entire, that off season and the whole last season to rehab from that. And again, these injuries are not what they used to be. And let's remember, guys, that Maclin was the number 1 wide receiver on that team, even when Deshaun Jackson was there. He was always the wide receiver 1 for them. He's been very consistent over the past 3 seasons. After being a rookie in 2010 through 2012, across those 3 seasons, he averaged almost 70 receptions a year, 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns, which in fantasy points would have put him at about 29 last season in a PPR. But I think with the loss of Deshaun, they're kind of flip-flopping roles now to where Deshaun's going to definitely be the main guy. They did draft a couple rookies. Jordan Matthews was drafted in the 2nd round, and then Josh Huff in later rounds. But really the only thing behind him since Deshaun is gone, is the racist Riley Cooper. and a bunch of rookies. I mean, frankly, there's just not a whole lot of talent behind him. So I think that alone, he's going to get a ton of looks, a ton of catches. What really intrigues me about him, though, guys, is that, and we have to keep an eye on this, is that he opted to sign a one-year deal as opposed to the longer deal that they were trying to get him to sign. To me, that bodes well for his confidence. He sees this as a play-it season. If he does well, he'll be able to get a more lucrative, longer-term contract down the road. So I think that makes me feel really good about him. He's definitely healthy. So at the end of the day, I see him as getting right around 80 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns going into 2014, which again puts him, if you can get him as your wide receiver 3, which I think you can, based on ADP, that would just be fantastic value for Maclin this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Macklin's just going to see a lot of targets. There isn't much behind him in the depth chart, so he's just going to be force-fed the ball. As long as he can stay healthy, the guy is going to be worth owning, especially in PPR. Those guys, I kind of see him as somebody that's going to get the amount of targets that somebody like an Antonio Brown or a Julian Edelman got in New England. These guys just got thrown the ball a ton. That's why they were so good in PPR. They score you 12 points a week just out of receptions. So definitely good call on Jeremy Maclin there.
Yeah, so we're going to move on back to the Colts offense. We want to put a lot of these guys in here that were coming off injuries but are definitely good players and get our thoughts into the audience as to what we think they're going to do. So Reggie Wayne just has been a beast for every team he's played for the Colts, essentially, with different quarterbacks and such. It doesn't matter. The guy just catches a ton of balls, very consistent. He's been playing in the league for forever. But he is coming off an ACL, and even though I keep saying those injuries aren't what they used to be, he's still older, definitely. So what do we think, Jimmer? ADP has him at 35th PPR, which is the lowest he's ever gone, I'm sure, in past drafts. You have him at 25th, 10 spots higher than the average draft position. So why are you so high on Reggie Wayne going into this season?
Well, all the fantasy guys are in the same boat I am. He's just polarizing. I mean, most people, they don't know what's going to happen. He could go one way or the other. He could, wash out into fantasy negligence and essentially be out of the league, or he could do 1,000 yards. And let's look at what happened last year. Last year, he was literally, before he got hurt in the 7th game, he was on track for 1,000 yards and 80 catches. I mean, think about that for a second. That's a whole different fantasy bracket. I mean, he's one of those high-risk, high-reward guys, and that's why I have him so high. I don't know. He says he's ahead of his health schedule, and with the whole injury, and I mean, who knows? Every athlete says that, but honestly, between you and me, I think he's going to put up 1,000 yards, and I think he's can easily be a top 25 receiver, if not higher. So, and since I said I would talk about it, Pep Hamilton, in that offensive coordinator role, they don't throw the ball much. They really don't until they need to, and that's in the 4th quarter, and that's where Andrew Luck has just shined. He is so good. He's so talented. He makes all the right reads. He finds a guy like Reggie Wayne more than often than not because he knows that he can throw it to him. He knows that he can catch it. Can you say that about T.Y. Hilton? Not as much as you can about Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne will catch the ball. So, back to you guys.
Yeah, the only reason I stay away from Reggie Wayne is because he's so damn old. Only ageist, if you will. But, somebody that's that age in the NFL, he's gonna get banged around. He's gonna get hurt, and Nick's being there now is gonna add in just another weapon for Luck to look for and throw the ball to. I think that Reggie Wayne is gonna fade into fantasy irrelevance, and it's gonna start this year. Rob, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm just cautious on the guy again. I mean, he's going to get his catches. He'll probably catch 80 balls just because he's Reggie Wayne, and I think Luck's going to kind of rely on him. But it's just going to be shorter routes. He's not going to get as many yards, not going to get as many touchdowns. So I think he's a flex player guy you plug in on a bye week for Mr. Reggie Wayne. So we're going to move on to a guy that both the Cushman and I are super high on this year. I mean, this guy could really blow the top off and just be a beast going into his 3rd season. And this is Michael Floyd. ADP in PPR leagues is 26th. Jay, you have him at 20th. You have him inside your top 20. I've got him at 24. And he did it last year. He's a beast in Arizona there. With the quarterback's always kind of a question. But what do you think, and why are you so high on Michael Floyd going into 2014?
Well, look, Larry Fitzgerald, God bless that guy. He's on the downside of his career. It looks like age is going to catch up with him. I mean, it's sad. He's one of the most talented guys in the history of the game. But on the other side of the field, now you've got Michael Floyd. And this guy's career is just beginning to blossom. 6'2", 220. The guy is a beast. He's already made progress in his first 2 years in the league. I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. That was a first-round pick out of Notre Dame. He's got all the tools to be an elite receiver. He's just, we've been waiting for him to kind of put it together. Last season, he finished the year with the most receiving yards on the team. That's just a little over 1,000 yards, despite having 24 less targets and 17 less receptions than Larry Fitzgerald. So the important question here really is, can Carson Palmer stay upright and make the throws that he needs to make to get this guy the ball? I think Palmer's going to have better protection this year. He signed a free agent left tackle from Oakland. They also got a guy coming off their draft last year that was a first-round pick that was injured, an offensive lineman, so he should have better protection this year. I think that Michael Floyd, dude, this guy could, in all honesty, I think he could end up as a top 10 wide receiver. I've got him at 20 right now. I'm gonna keep my eye on him and see what happens. But I see him getting around 80 catches, 1,300 yards, and maybe 8 touchdowns this year. The guy's gonna be, keep your eye on him. If you can steal him late, do it. Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high on him too. I think he's kind of my breakout wide receiver this coming into this season. Their offensive line can't get any worse. They've tried to shore that up. Palmer's, he's an older pro, but he's still a pro. I mean, he's still going to get the job done as long as he can stay on his feet. I mean, Floyd already outproduced Larry Fitzgerald in yards last season, even with all their offensive line issues and with Carson throwing the ball. So I think he only moves up from here. And I think Larry Fitzgerald, given just who he is and name recognition, and he still is a very, very, very solid player, still going to get the top corner most of the time and get most of the double teams. I think Floyd really breaks out, and you're going to be able to draft him, as your wide receiver 3 and flex position type player, and I think that's just incredible value.
Yeah, Jim, you got any thoughts on how high we are on Michael Floyd? You seem to not agree with us.
I just hate Notre Dame players.
Oh, screw you.
That's relevant. All right.
And we'll move on to Mr. Hakeem Nicks coming from the Giants over to the Colts. I like this. Rob, do you like this? Do you think that this guy's going to have a good season with Andrew Luck throwing him the ball?
Well, ADP has got him at 39th in PPR leagues. I've got him at 38th. First of all, let me just say, did either of you, is it only me, or did you guys think this guy's bigger than only 6 foot tall? I mean, for some reason, I had this guy in my head.
I always thought he was 6'3".
I did too. I thought he was this huge, monstrous wide receiver, and I've been watching him for years, of course, but I looked at his actual measurements and so forth. He's only 6 foot tall, which was just, doesn't mean a whole lot, but just kind of curious to me. But anyway, in the last 2 seasons, he has played 88% of those games. But I think he's playing hurt in a lot of those games with those crazy lower extremity issues that scares me about Julio Jones. But in those games, he's only averaged 54 receptions, under 800 yards, and just a couple touchdowns in those seasons. So it's just his production has been really bad, and maybe that's because he is playing hurt, to the detriment of his own team or his former team and to us fantasy owners. But last year he finished 48th. Wide receiver in PPR, obviously not great. He's just basically wide receiver fodder with high name recognition. But I don't know that his feet are ever going to be healthy enough for him to put up the years that he put up a few years ago. Now he's playing along T.Y. Hilton alongside of him, and he's just this dynamic younger guy. Reggie Wayne's coming back, so you've got Hakeem Nicks as the wide receiver 3 on that team. And I frankly just don't know what to do with this guy. I mean, he signed a 1-year deal, and that wasn't of his choosing. It was of the team's. So they're just probably going to see what you can do type of contract. Don't have a lot of faith in the guy. I'm going to go ahead and, just because of what he used to be, I'm going to log him down for 65 receptions, maybe 900 yards, and 3 or 4 touchdowns. But again, this is a flex play at best, wide receiver play at depth, and maybe Andrew Luck can make him more relevant than that, but I'm just not sold.
Yeah, I liked it, especially when I first saw it happen. I liked it. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, it's just too many freaking mouths to feed, and I think he's the least talented mouth there. The only way I think he is really relevant is if Reggie Wayne gets injured again. Then I think that Nix is going to be worth having. Other than that, probably not. Definitely, relegated to the basement of flex plays.
Well, yeah. Let me give you a litmus test here, Jay. All right. Do we think Andrew Luck is going to throw more than 4,000 yards? Yes or no?
Possibly. Yeah.
Possibly. Realistically, probably not. Rob?
I think he's going to throw a little more than we're accustomed to seeing, even in that same.
Pep Hamilton offense, 60% run, 40% pass. Think about it.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. And yes, I know we're talking a lot about Indianapolis this year or this show, but that's my only thing, man. I just don't see how he's going to get more than. There's no way he gets over 1,000 yards unless Reggie Wayne goes down, and. So I think 900 is a little high. I think he's more in the 750 range. He's completely a flex play and a fill-in if something happens.
Yeah. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for our show today, our thoughts on wide receivers going into 2014. So on our next show, we're going to be breaking down and ranking that difficult mid-tier quarterback section, the tight end sections for 2014, and comparing our rankings with current ADP on fantasyfootballcalculator.com. So tune in to see how we match up. Again, we're live every 2 weeks in the off season. We'll be going to every week once the season gets closer. So tune in a couple weeks for our next live hangout. In the meantime, you can go to redzonewarriors.com where you can watch previous episodes, see our rankings, and subscribe to the show via iTunes. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and tweet us your fantasy football questions at Red Zone Warriors. So for the Cushman and the Jimmer, I am Rob the Commish Smith. And remember that if you are taking a fantasy offseason, then you are already losing. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.